Amy stood at the edge of the arrival hall, her fingers tightly wrapped around the handle of a small suitcase. It had once been black. Years of dragging it across foreign floors had faded it into dull gray, the same color her hopes felt at that moment. People rushed past her. Some laughed, some cried into the arms of waiting family. Some shouted names filled with joy. No one called Ini. At 40 years old, she had returned to Nigeria with no welcome, no celebration, and no one waiting to say, "You made it." She took a slow breath and stepped outside the airport. The heat wrapped around her immediately, thick and familiar. This was home, but it did not feel like it anymore. A taxi driver asked where she was going. Ini opened her mouth, then closed it for a second. She realized she had nowhere that truly belonged to her. After a pause, she mentioned an address in Benin City, the house of a distant aunt who had agreed to let her stay temporarily. As the taxi drove away, Ini leaned her head against the window and allowed her memories to return. She had left Edo State at 18, full of fear and hope mixed together. Her father's accident had changed everything. The once strong driver who provided for his family became a man who struggled to walk properly. Her mother's petty trading barely kept food on the table. Ini became the answer. When a friend told her about traveling to the UK to work and send money home, Ini did not hesitate. She took a loan. She got the visa. She promised herself she would endure anything as long as her family survived, and endure everything she did. The UK was cold, not just in weather, but in spirit. She worked jobs people looked down on: dishwasher, cleaner, and waitress. She worked until her back burned and her hands cracked. She skipped meals. She lived in share apartments where loneliness echoed louder than noise. But every month, money went home. Festus went to school. Clara studied law. Her parents survived. That was all Ini told herself she needed. The taxi stopped in front of a quiet compound. Ini paid the driver and dragged her suitcase inside. The room her aunt gave her was small and tired, as though it had also been through too much. A thin mattress lay on the floor. The walls were marked by time and neglect. That night, Ini sat on the mattress and stared at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. A message from her mother. "Hope you have settled. Things are hard here." Ini read it twice. There was no apology, no gratitude, no acknowledgement of the years she had lost. She placed the phone face down and laid back. For the first time in decades, Ini cried without worrying who would hear her. Days passed slowly. Ini helped around the house. She avoided neighbors. She avoided questions. At night, she lay awake listening to the sound of generators and distant conversations. One night, as rain fell softly, a thought crept into her mind. If I stop living for everyone else, who am I? The question frightened her. She had never lived without being needed, without being the provider, without being the one who carried everything. But something inside her stirred. Maybe this was not the end. Maybe this was the beginning she never allowed herself to have. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. Ini was returning from the market when she saw it. A banner tied loosely to a gate, swaying gently in the wind. "Learn fashion design today. No age limit." She stopped walking. Her heart skipped. "No age limit." She read it again, slowly as if afraid the words might disappear. At 40, with nothing left to lose, Ini walked through the gate. Fashion school was humbling. The students were young. Some looked at her with curiosity. Others whispered. Ini focused on the sewing machine in front of her and reminded herself why she was there. Her hands shook at first. Her stitches were uneven. She made mistakes that embarrassed her, but she stayed. At night, she cleaned offices to pay her fees. During the day, she practiced until her fingers ached. When frustration came in, She remembered the airport, standing alone. She refused to return to that emptiness. Slowly, her work improved. Her confidence returned. For the first time in her life, Ini was building something for herself. After graduation, Ini bought a second-hand sewing machine and started from her room. One dress became two, two became five, five became recommendations. When she finally rented a small shop, she named it Second Chance Fashion House because that was exactly what life had given her. She trained young girls for free. She taught them sewing and something deeper. Do not forget yourself while helping others, she told them. One day, Ehis walked into her shop on a quiet afternoon. He was polite, calm, and grounded. He was a successful businessman in Edo. He came for his sister's clothes. Then he stayed for a conversation. He listened not with pity, but with respect. Ini spoke freely, not as a broken woman, but as one who has survived. Ehis admired her strength, her boundaries, her growth. With him, Ini did not feel pressure to prove anything. When love came, it came gently. She said yes, not because she needed saving, but because she had already saved herself. She introduced him to her family slowly and carefully. Ehis respected her story. He respected her limits. He admired the woman she had become, not the sacrifices she once made. When they married, Ini did not disappear into the marriage the way she disappeared into responsibility before. She stayed herself. One evening, Ini stood outside her shop and watched the sunset. She had peace. She had purpose. She had love. Her family still existed, but they no longer owned her life. For the first time, Ini had chosen herself, and the choice rewrote her story. Over time, her family began to relate with her differently. Not perfectly, not magically, but differently. Festus started checking up on her, not for money, but for advice. Clara apologized one evening quietly without drama. I was wrong, she said. I thought strength meant silence. Annie forgave them, not because they deserved it, but because she deserved peace. She did not return to being the family backbone. This time, there were boundaries, and everyone adjusted. Her family was still part of her life, but they no longer owned it. She had learned that family is love, not obligation, support, not entitlement, connection, not consumption. Ini smiled. She had finally rewritten her place in the world. The moral of this story is, Ini's story reminds us that family love must always have boundaries. Sacrifices should not erase our identity, and helping others should never mean destroying ourselves. You can love deeply and still choose yourself, and sometimes stepping back is the only way to move forward. Guys, if you listen to the end, thank you so much. I appreciate the love and support. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye. See you next time for another amazing story.